Last January, my heating bill was $340 for 1 month in a house I own. I'm not complaining about the money. I'm complaining about the math. Because somewhere on the other side of the planet, 175 million people heated their homes that same winter. Not with gas, not with electricity, with sand and stone, and most of them paid nothing extra at all. Here's the part that really got me. This isn't new technology. It's not some Silicon Valley moonshot waiting on venture capital. The physics behind it was figured out before the Roman Empire fell. Civilizations from Korea to China to Scandinavia independently discovered the same truth, that if you heat a dense, cheap material and insulate it properly, it will hold that heat for days. No fuel, no bill, no moving parts. So why is it that in 2025, you cannot legally install one of these systems in 49 American states? Not without a registered engineer, a $50,000 testing process, and the blessing of a committee stacked with gas industry representatives. That's exactly what we're going to unpack today. Stay with me, because this goes deeper than heating. Let's start with something your physics teacher probably glossed over. Thermal mass. Every material around you absorbs heat, but they don't all absorb it equally. And more importantly, they don't all release it at the same rate. Water heats up fast and cools down fast. Air is nearly useless. It holds almost nothing. But stone, brick, sand, dense, heavy, granular materials, they behave like a thermal flywheel. Think of it like this. Imagine spinning a bicycle wheel. A lightweight wheel starts and stops quickly. A heavy flywheel takes effort to get spinning, but once it's moving, it keeps going for a long time on its own. Dense materials do the same thing with heat. You charge them up, and they release that energy slowly, steadily, for hours, sometimes days, afterward. Here's the specific physics that makes sand surprisingly powerful. Sand's thermal conductivity sits between 0.2 and 0.7 watts per meter Kelvin. That's extraordinarily low. Scientists at Finland's Polar Energy demonstrated that if you heat one side of a 1-meter block of sand to 500 degrees Celsius, it takes over 8 full days for that heat to reach the other side. 8 days, 1 meter. That's not a flaw. That's the feature. The same property that makes sand slow to release heat is the exact property that makes it hold heat so efficiently. The weakness and the strength are the same physics. And when the U.S. National Renewable Energy Laboratory tested silica sand heated to 1,200 degrees Celsius, held there for 500 continuous hours, they found zero degradation. No chemical change. No wear. The sand didn't age. A technology that doesn't degrade is a technology that doesn't need replacing. And that is a very inconvenient truth for a $12 billion industry built on selling you replacement equipment. Here's something that genuinely fascinates me about this story. Thermal mass heating wasn't invented once. It was invented independently by multiple civilizations, centuries apart, on different continents, because the physics is so obvious that anyone who built with stone eventually figured it out. On the Korean peninsula, roughly 3,000 years ago, a system called the ondol, meaning warm stone, became the foundation of home life. The design was elegant. Burn fuel in a firebox outside the living space. Channel the hot exhaust gases through stone passages beneath the floor. Let the thick stone slabs absorb that heat. The fire could go out at midnight. The floor would still be warm at sunrise. By the 15th century, ondol wasn't a luxury. It was standard construction, built by the wealthy, built by the poor, built by everyone who intended to survive a Korean winter. Today, Over 90% of South Korean homes use radiant floor heating that is a direct technological descendant of that same system. Frank Lloyd Wright, who encountered it while working in Japan in the 1930s, called it one of the most important architectural innovations he had ever seen. In northern China, the same logic produced the Kang, a raised sleeping platform built from brick and masonry connected to the household cooking stove by a flue system. You cook dinner, and the combustion heat that would otherwise escape up a chimney instead flows beneath your sleeping platform, charging it up for the night. Researchers at Tongji University have proposed archaeological evidence pushing the Kang's origins back 7,000 years, though that remains debated. What isn't debated? As recently as 2004, 67 million Kangs were actively serving 175 million people across 14 northern Chinese provinces. Studies found they reduced whole building heating loads by 50 to 80%. That's not ancient history. That's the early 2000s. That's within living memory. Then there's Scandinavia. The Finnish masonry heater takes a different form, a towering structure of dense soapstone, sometimes weighing 5 to 7 tons. You burn a hot, fast, 30-minute fire. The soapstone absorbs that surge of heat. Then, for the next 18 to 24 hours, it radiates warmth gently and evenly into the room. No cycling on and off. No cold spots at 3 in the morning. Just steady, radiant heat from stone that is already holding the energy. Finnish company Tuulikivi has been refining this design since 1980. Over 300,000 homes worldwide now use their masonry heaters. And when Finland's Polar Energy built their first commercial sand battery, they filled it with crushed soapstone sourced directly from Tuulikivi. The lineage from a 15th century Finnish stove to a 21st century grid-scale storage installation is completely unbroken. The physics never changed. The insight never vanished. In 2011, a mechanical engineer named Ziwen Ma at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory started calculating storage costs for sand-based thermal systems. His team arrived at a number that made them recheck their math: $4 to $10 per kilowatt hour. For context, a home lithium-ion battery pack stores energy at roughly $300 per kilowatt hour. Sand is 30 times cheaper as a storage medium. The raw material cost comparison is even more staggering. Sand runs about $16 per cubic meter. Lithium-ion cells cost approximately $39,600 per cubic meter equivalent. Craig Turchi, who manages the Thermal Energy Science Group at NREL, put it plainly. Once you've paid for the insulated vessel, adding more storage capacity is just adding more sand. It's almost too simple. Now here's something I want to address directly, because good content requires honesty. A researcher at NREL named Jeffrey Gifford co-authored the key modeling paper on sand thermal storage. He was precise about the numbers. For electricity-to-electricity round-trip efficiency, sand thermal systems sit at around 50 to 52%. If you're storing solar electricity, converting it to heat, then converting it back to electricity, you lose about half. But here's the thing. Most homes don't need electricity back. They need heat. And in thermal-to-thermal efficiency, charging the sand with heat, extracting heat, the numbers jump to 75% for small systems and over 90% at scale. For a home heating application, that's the only number that matters. Finland's Polar Energy proved this at commercial scale. Their Pornainen installation holds 2,000 tons of crushed soapstone and 100 megawatt-hours of capacity. It operates at approximately $25 per kilowatt-hour of storage. 1/4 the price of lithium-ion, for a district that no longer burns oil. So if the science is solid, The cost is dramatically lower, and billions of people have proven the concept across millennia. Why can't an American homeowner legally build one? The answer isn't dramatic. It's bureaucratic. And bureaucracy, it turns out, can be just as effective as a conspiracy. The International Residential Code, adopted by 49 U.S. states, governs what you can legally build. It prescribes specific materials and methods. Anything outside that list must go through a variance process. That means a registered engineer's assessment, third-party testing through organizations like UL or ICCES, and approval from a building official who has likely never encountered your system before. That variance process costs between $12,000 and $60,000 for a system whose materials cost under $300. More specifically, no UL listing exists for any residential sand battery. No UL listing exists for any solid thermal mass heating device. No category. No pathway. You can't even begin the normal approval process because the regulatory category simply doesn't exist yet. The question isn't whether this works. The question is, what are you going to do with it? If you want to go deeper, building plans, material sourcing, off-grid heating strategies that don't require permission from a code committee, subscribe and hit the bell. The next video gets into the specific build steps for a backyard-scale thermal battery you can actually construct this weekend. And if you've already built something like this, drop it in the comments. I want to see it. The best underground knowledge travels person to person, and this channel is where that conversation lives. See you in the next one.